Yeah.
We got London on the track.
This is all God's doing, man, you can't plan it. But if the devil's in the details, then I'm satanic.
People's Kid, how we doing? It's your boy Kobe, back with another video, and as always, I hope you guys are having a blessed day. Today I have a fun video on the 5 best 2017 NBA draft prospects who are not point guards. As we all know about the hype surrounding guys like Lonzo Ball, Markelle Fultz, and De'Aaron Fox, I feel like there hasn't been as much discussion on players that are not floor generals. So with teams like the Phoenix Suns and Boston Celtics, whose rosters are already flooded with guards, it doesn't hurt for these teams to see what the NBA draft offers beyond just point guards. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Number 5. OG Anunoby, Indiana University. Really quickly, before getting into OG's game, let me first shout out Tom Crean for finding another hidden gem on the recruiting trail. You can say what you want about his coaching prowess, but the man knows how to recruit. Similar to former Hoosiers guard Victor Oladipo, OG was an unheralded high school prospect from Jefferson City, Missouri, who rose to prominence after an excellent 2016 NCAA tournament performance in his freshman season. Standing tall at 6'8" with a 7'2" wingspan, scouts immediately recognized OG's incredible physical profile as a future NBA wing. Along with showing great defensive capabilities to guard multiple positions, OG provided Indiana with countless high-flying energy plays due to his outstanding athleticism. Shooting 70% from two-pointers this year, the college game gave OG little trouble at finishing around the rim. And if that doesn't impress you, he also flashed potential on his ability to shoot from 3 as a career 36% shooter from beyond the arc during his time in Bloomington. So what exactly stops OG from blossoming into the next, say, Kawhi Leonard? Well, as you can see from some of these clips, there may be a higher learning curve for OG becoming more than just a 3-and-D guy. Although you can say guys like Leonard and Jimmy Butler also came in the league with limited offensive tools, OG differs a bit from them in his lack of fluidity in the jump shot. Just glancing at how OG's jump shot mechanics look, you see a very low release that takes time to go into motion. In comparison to Butler and Leonard, the different release points on their jump shots are clearly advantageous in preventing defenders from blocking or altering the shot. Also, another major question mark with OG is simply if he can return to form after serious knee injury. On January 18th, he suffered a torn ACL against Penn State, which not only ended his college career, but also became the biggest weakness in his draft stock. Thanks to the concern around this injury, I personally believe OG is now one of the more underrated prospects in the draft, and I have him slotted ahead of some other lottery guys. While he will obviously not be ready for the starter next year, if OG can make a full recovery on his knee, I like his chances to become an instant contributor to a young NBA team looking for defensive versatility. And even though I dim the light a bit here on his potential to become an NBA star, just like he rapidly improved in the Big Ten, the room for more exponential growth once he steps on the NBA court is not out of the question. Number 4. Malik Monk, University of Kentucky. Although it was Kentucky's De'Aaron Fox who stole the spotlight in this year's NCAA tournament, people may forget it was Monk who was the best player on the Calipari-led team from start to finish this year. As a true freshman, Monk produced an impressive 19.8 points per game on 45% from the field and 39.7% from 3 this season. Winning both SEC Freshman and Player of the Year honors, Malik delivered time and time again for a Wildcats team whose success highly dependent on its production. With the notion of being able to shoot the long ball in the NBA becoming more and more important with every new season, Monk has a strong case in calling himself the best shooter in the entire draft class. And let's be clear, I don't refer to his shooting as just a reference to his shot making in spot-up situations. On the contrary, Malik's ability to hit jumpers from any angle might be his best attribute. Perhaps what showed this best was also his biggest wow moment this season, where he dropped a Kentucky freshman record 47 points on the future national champions in North Carolina. As you can see, even with great contests from opponents, Monk is rarely bothered from incoming defensive pressure such as a hand in his face. And thanks to a rock-solid handle, Malik is just as capable from hitting shots off screens as he is from isolation situations, giving him a near-complete repertoire as a potential NBA scorer. Yet in remaining unbiased in my evaluation, there are certainly a few limitations on Monk's overall draft profile. First, while he has no issues in the athleticism department, evidenced from a 42-inch vertical and his explosive quickness, Malik possesses a below-average frame for an NBA shooting guard. At only 6'3", Monk will run into a bit of trouble guarding the two against players who can play both the shooting guard and small forward. And even though Malik has shown the potential to be a decent on-ball defender at times due to very good lateral quickness, his average frame will not stop opponents from rising up for great looks and/or bullying their way into the paint. With that being said, I wouldn't be surprised if NBA scouts look for Monk to build on his ability to play point guard for stretches and enroll that will lead more to being a combo guard rather than a true shooting guard. For this to be a reality, however, it'll be important for Malik to improve on a somewhat mediocre playmaking ability at this stage in his career, as he only averaged 2.3 assists against 2 turnovers a game during his time with Big Blue. While Malik obviously looks to score with his on-ball touches, developing a bit more nuance in his approach to attacking the D with improved facilitating will do wonders for his on-court success in the NBA. If he's able to work on this, I see no reason why he can't become a player similar to a guy like Bradley Beal in his peak profile comparison. Number 3, Jason Tatum, Duke University. Now it's time to get to a player that I'm all too familiar with. For those who don't know, I am a die-hard Duke basketball fan, so Tatum's profile is a pretty easy one for me to explain. Although it's never fun to see one of your team's best players declare for the NBA draft, I will even admit Jason's decision to forego his sophomore year was a simple one, as he looks to be a consensus top 5 prospect in this year's crop of basketball talent. A blue-chip recruit from St. Louis, Tatum was already well known on the high school AAU circuit for his top-notch scoring ability. And to no one's surprise, Tatum became one of Duke's go-to scoring options throughout the year, averaging 16.8 points per game and 7.3 rebounds per game on 45% from the field. Blessed by a guy with great size and length, this combined with a very advanced offensive game made Jayson a major problem most opponents didn't know how to solve. From my first glance at him in a preseason scrimmage, I could immediately see why there was a lot of hype to his game. With a very high release on his shot, it is almost impossible to block his shot whenever he decides to rise up. And if that wasn't enough, his fantastic footwork provides him even more space to get good scoring looks from both the high post and perimeter. Defensively, Jayson was also actually pretty good when he wanted to be under Coach K, as his versatility in playing as both a wing and big gave Duke opportunities to try out a myriad of different lineups this season. Overall, he was a huge weapon for the Blue Devils, and his one-on-one scoring was desperately needed for a team that surprisingly struggled to score at times against more physical ball clubs. But with all my praise and thanks to Tatum for a great freshman campaign, I think there's a lot of things Jayson needs to work on to become a good NBA player. First and foremost, for all his success in creating great shot opportunities for himself, he really is not a great shooter at this point. Although technically every player can be considered a streaky shooter, Tatum struggled to consistently find the bottom of the net from distance this year, as he shot only 34% from 3. In different individual games, there were times where he looked like a knockdown shooter, and times where he had completely lost any rhythm and fluidity in his jump shot mechanics. Another issue Tatum had this year is he played a great deal of hero ball, meaning he would try and carry the scoring load by himself on offense. I know I already mentioned how his one-on-one mentality helped Duke at times, but it also caused some misalignment in the Blue Devils' usually excellent offense. Jayson was guilty of taking some absolutely terrible shots, whether it be contested stepbacks or ill-advised drives to the rim. In transition, Tatum was often a running train that could not stop, as there were very few games where he did not get called for a charge due to him being a bit out of control. In general, for those who did not follow the team hard this year, you may be surprised to know a lot of mixed feelings from Duke fans towards Tatum due to his perceived selfish style of basketball. Although I personally believe his overall basketball IQ does not currently match the elite skills he undoubtedly possesses, at only 19 years old, he's going to have plenty of time to make the necessary changes. If he does, watch out for his potential to develop into one of the NBA's best scorers. Number 2, Jonathan Isaac, Florida State University. Putting Isaac above Tatum as the ACC's best NBA draft prospect this year was a tough call, but it was one that I made realizing how much room he still has to grow in developing into an all-star player. Another recruit who has a story of having a crazy growth spurt in high school, Isaac often displayed guard-like attributes as a near 7-footer during his time in Tallahassee this season. Although Isaac averaged a modest 12 points per game and 7.8 rebounds for the Seminoles in his freshman campaign, it was the role that Jonathan played on Florida State that excited scouts on what he could contribute right now in the NBA. As it almost always starts with these players that have a great combination of physical tools and athletic ability, Isaac was dynamite in college defensively by being able to seamlessly defend every position on the basketball court. Since he is not too far removed from being a guard himself, Jonathan flourished in opportunities where he was forced to switch on smaller guards thanks to his outstanding length and lateral quickness. Just watching tape on Isaac for this skill alone made me think of how much Cleveland would love to have him right now, as I already remember a few times where Steph exposed Cavs bigs in brutal ISO situations. Beyond this though, Isaac is also an excellent offensive and defensive rebounder, whose quick second jump coincides nicely with his incredibly high motor. In regards to his offense at this current stage, Jonathan is definitely a work in progress, but he's already shown nice things in several areas. Along with showing a decent jumper by hitting a 3 per game this year, he also had brief success as a slasher attacking incoming closeouts from defenders. So what may give NBA front offices pause to selecting Isaac in the coming weeks? Well, partly due to the intrigue on what he can become, there's also room to consider what he may not become. There are signs showing Isaac can build on his offensive flashes. He may never materialize into anything more than a versatile defensive big who gives marginal benefit on the other side of the ball. For players that come into the league every year billed for their unlimited upside, there are plenty of examples of missed picks. Not saying Isaac is a bust whatsoever, but there is simply no telling on how good he will become. Number 1. Josh Jackson, University of Kansas. Josh Jackson is the best non-point guard prospect in the 2017 NBA draft, and it again has to do with the upside potential we all care so much for. Averaging 16.3 points per game and 7.4 rebounds a contest, Jackson actually played the small ball power forward position for most of the season under Bill Self. Now you might think of Jackson primarily as a wing, and for the purpose of teams drafting him that is indeed his natural fit, but at 6'8" he did have room to play a hybrid role at Kansas against college opponents. As he does a lot of things well on the offensive end, one of the more impressive things I noticed about Jackson was just his overall great feel for the game. While there are many prospects who score off the charts solely due to their physical profile, Jackson possesses the basketball IQ that will win your favorite team ball games. You definitely won't confuse him with a playmaker, but a little known fact is that he actually averaged a solid 3 assists per game. Personally, I also think he's undersold a bit with his ball handling, as he had no trouble bringing the ball up from time to time as well. Despite having some ways to go on his jumper, he again shows signs of promise from spot-up and situational isolation opportunities. Yet the place where Jackson makes his money as an NBA prospect, however, has to do with the value he brings on the defensive end. Even though I'm not sure if he will be able to consistently guard fours in the league, his elite ability to guard on the perimeter makes him a great addition to any team in the NBA. With great feet and incredibly quick hands, Jackson does a fantastic job on the ball. And again, as I alluded to earlier, his fantastic basketball IQ benefits his team greatly as he provides just as good help defense. Whether it be jumping the passing lane or sending back attempts at the rim, Jackson carries a trait of making game-changing plays for your team. Ironically, although scouts love his potential on his future upside, I personally believe Josh is NBA ready right now to receive minutes on a playoff contending team for all the things I've listed already. Now, Jackson isn't a perfect prospect, and just like everyone else on this list, there are weaknesses to his game to build on. However, for a prospect of this caliber, the question is more of a product of what roadblocks exist to not becoming a good NBA player, but a great one. And to answer this question, it lies solely in whether he will improve as a shooter. While his 3-point shooting splits don't look too bad, he shot a horrendous 56% from the free throw line this season, signaling bigger issues in his mechanics than any other metric. Off the dribble shooting will also need some improvement, and as I think he has the ball handling and footwork to create the space, it will all come down to execution on his shot. The need for defenders to challenge his shot will open everything else, and this could lead to his NBA stardom. Similar to the other 4 guys, it is anyone's guess on what Josh will do with this opportunity, but I'm excited to see what the future has in store for all these somewhat forgotten prospects in a draft headlined by point guards. Yet as recent reports indicate the Lakers may decide to pass on Lonzo Ball, their hype may return sooner than you think.